people. You can still hear me in the back with no microphone? Good, yeah, pardon. You know, there used to be, years ago, a Sears warehouse down on Calazar Avenue off of Heron. And it was a big old warehouse where customers would bring their stuff to be fixed. So it's about 25, maybe 27 years ago, and I'm working in the shipping and receiving department at this Sears warehouse. And I'm sitting at my desk in the back of the warehouse where there's no customers. And in front of me there's this landing. It's about 1 story up. And there's stairs that go up to it. There's a landing there. And there's this metal railing that goes around the landing to stop you from falling off. And up there, that's where the maintenance guy hangs out. Dave Foley is the maintenance guy. So I'm sitting at my desk, and from up top there I hear ding, ding, ding. I thought, what the heck is that? So I walk up the stairs to see what the ding is. And there's Dave Foley sitting in a big padded chair about 15 feet from the railing, and he's got a handful of darts. And he's throwing the darts, and they're going ding, off the railing. Ding. And he's just sitting there. Ding. And then he throws one, and there's no ding. And it flies over the railing, and it comes down onto the floor, and it goes right into the side of somebody's freezer. So this dart is sticking in the side of some customer's freezer. I don't know how you fix that. And I don't know what happened to that freezer. And years went by, and Dave and I have never spoken of that event. Until about 2 years ago. And my wife Sharon and I are over at Dave's house visiting with him and his wife Marlene, because we're good friends. And sometimes we start talking about nostalgic events, you know. So I tell this story, because it just sort of popped in my head. And my wife Sharon gets this perplexed look on her face, and she says to Dave, why on earth would you throw darts at a little railing this big? And right out of the blue, without any thought, as innocently as you can imagine, Dave says, well, it never occurred to me that I would miss. Can you think of a better philosophy for life than that? Now, it's not like he's a dart expert. I've known the man all my life. That is the only time I've ever seen him throw a dart. Ding. Ding. One right after the other. You know, Dr. Joyce Brothers once said years ago, she says, you cannot consistently perform in a manner which is inconsistent with the way you see yourself. But it wasn't until about the last 10 years that breakthroughs in neuroscience and cell biology have given us some idea as to how true that actually is. And so I'm going to share a little bit of that with you this morning, just because I think it's really cool. In his book, Brain Rules, Dr. John Medina, who teaches brain science, neuroscience at Harvard, he tells us that when you have a specific kind of a thought, or when input comes into your brain, there are specific neurons in your brain associated with that thought or associated with that input. And the more often that that thought or that input is repeated, the bigger the neuron, the associated neurons get. They physically get bigger. And so what happens is, when you think of something, or you see something, or you say something, or you think of something that is about yourself, those neurons get bigger and bigger, and every time you think that thought, they fire, and the signal gets stronger and stronger. So, when you stand up and say, I'm nervous standing in public, I'm no good at anything, that thought gets stronger and stronger every time you think it, every time you say it. But that's only the first part of the equation, because what happens after that is really cool. In her book, Molecules of Emotion, Candace Pert, who you might recognize from the movie What the Bleep, cell biologist, her entire life's work is based on this. It's based on the fact that when you have a thought and those neurons fire, they engage something in the center of your brain called the amygdala, and Bob talked about this last week when he did his talk about the monkey mind. The amygdala is the emotional center of your brain. So when you have these thoughts, then that releases some emotions that are associated with those thoughts. Now, emotions have actual physical molecular structure to them. There are actual molecules of emotion. Thus the name of the book, Molecules of Emotion. So when you have these thoughts, I'm afraid of speaking in public, I'm no good at this, I'll never be any good, I hate this job, whatever the job, or it never occurred to me that I would miss. When you have those kinds of thoughts, these molecules of associated emotions flood your body. And that's only phase 2. Phase 3 is this. In his book, Biology of Belief, Dr. Bruce Lipton, who is also a cell biologist, has dedicated his career to this. When you have these thoughts, and when those molecules of emotion are released, is it okay if I use your flip chart?
Go right ahead.
Thank you. This is beautiful that you brought this. Here's what happens. This is a cell. You've got somewhere between 75 and 100 trillion of these babies in your body. Now, inside the cell, of course, is the nucleus where all the DNA stuff happens. And outside, all this stuff in here, this is all proteins, like gears in a watch. And they turn and they crank. And they determine how your cells behave. These molecules of emotion, when they get released from your amygdala, they flood your body. And all these little molecules are bouncing around the outside of your cell, of every cell in your body. But then what happens is, there are receptors on the cell membrane that accept these molecules into the cells. So the molecules of emotion, the molecules of fear, the molecules of pride, the molecules of confidence, the molecules of hate, the molecules of whatever they are, get inside the cell and change the way your cells behave physically. So when you have these kind of thoughts about yourself, good or bad, you are changing the way your body behaves at the cellular level. So Dave didn't sit there, I'm sure, and throw the darts thinking, well, it's not occurred to me that I'm going to miss. I'm talking about an unconscious belief. An unconscious belief that it wouldn't occur to him to miss. An unconscious belief that I'm not good at anything. An unconscious belief that I'm afraid to speak in public. An unconscious belief of whatever it is drives the amygdala, which releases the emotions, which attacks the bodies in your cell, which change the way you behave. That's why you cannot consistently perform in a manner which is inconsistent with the way you see yourself. Now, I've known Dave all my life, and I don't know anybody who's got more confidence than Dave. Let me tell you just a little quick story about this man. If you want to have an entertaining evening, listen to me telling stories about this guy. We used to play music in a band together, as some of you know. And here's how little he cares about what you think. Okay? We're in Thunder Bay, Ontario. And I'm in a restaurant having lunch or something. And it's the kind of restaurant that's got this full glass window along the sidewalk. And the place is full, like this. And I'm minding my own business and I'm having my breakfast. And I hear all these people in the restaurant laughing. I look up to see what they're laughing at. And here's Dave Foley on the sidewalk, walking the entire length of the window like this. And he's looking in like this, and people are laughing at him. Then he comes to the door of the restaurant, and he turns like this, and his fists won't fit through the door, so he keeps banging against the door. So then he comes in sideways, and I'm at my table, I'm going, oh. I know he's going to come over to my table, I know it. So he does, he waddles his way right over to my table. You know why? Because he has so much confidence in himself, he doesn't care what you think. He doesn't care what I think. It doesn't occur to him to miss. Wouldn't that be a great way to live your life? It doesn't occur to you to miss. So the next time you have these thoughts about yourself, I'm no good at speaking in public, I'm no good at anything, and I'm not this and not that, and I don't have this and I can't do that. Think about what you're doing to yourself at the molecular level. You are changing your body biology. So I hope you got some value out of that. Thank you very much.